Let's get a new 30-minute game going. Black pieces this morning. Hoping to record 2 or even 3 games today. We've got an action-packed week coming up, so I want a little bit of breathing room. We've got the hillbilly attack. Our opponent drops their bishop back. I think what I like to do here is go ahead and get our knight out first. They're adding pressure to our d5 pawn. Very interesting. I don't know if I've seen this before. I think maybe the move is go ahead and play e6 immediately, neglecting the development. Or actually, we could get a knight out. We could get a knight out to protect this d5 pawn. Develop a piece rather than push a pawn and potentially lock our late squared bishop in. All right, and now we proceed normally with development. We could get our bishop out to g4 now that it's protected by our knight, either potentially provoking f3, a kingside weakness, or getting their knight out and pinning their knight to their queen. Looks pretty good to me. If they get a pawn out, we can drop back to h5 seems decent. h5 or f5. Maybe, yeah, h5. And if they want to further chase our bishop, that's fine by me. Okay. They get their dark squared bishop developed. We can go and play e6 and then bishop to e7. This nice structure in front of our king. I'm feeling pretty safe, pretty sturdy. This is interesting. We both have similar, or this is sort of a pawn structure you classically see on the caro-kann side of things. Offset 1 rank, or offset 1 file, I guess. Ooh. They get their queen in front of their king. Often not a good idea unless they're planning on castling immediately. We may be able to take advantage of that. No, they get castled. Okay. Let's go ahead and get castled as well, and then we can send our pawns up. Okay, they want to chase away our light squared bishop first. I think this actually plays into our hands a little bit. We get to play h6, both preparing an escape square for our light squared bishop and kicking away their light square or their dark squared bishop. So here an important choice. Do we want to get into an opposite squared bishop situation? I think the challenge with allowing pawn takes here is we have to take with our f pawn, which I guess does open up the f file for attacking, which isn't as appealing as it might normally be. So I like dropping back a little bit better here. If we had castled on the same side, I would entertain the idea of f takes. But I think that's not what I want to go for right now. So next, I think we'll send our pawns up the queen side, threatening an attack over there. If they want to take, they can, and then we get this nice check available to us if and when we need it. If they want to push, let's be aware of that. Maybe we can push our d pawn up 1, threatening their knight as sort of an intermezzo, and then opening up this nice d5 square for our knight. It looks pretty good. Now that we're out of the opening, I want to try to slow down a little bit, play thoughtfully, and make sure we don't just get like smoked for playing too quickly. Actually don't like knight to d5 as much as I thought I did, because they have, well, they'll need to move their knight, but they have 2 attackers on that square, and then we just have our e6 pawn, and this is an important defender, I think. Okay, so they drop back. Ooh, Um, now this check, if we can get our dark square bishop out there and get their bishop out of the way, that comes with a lot more venom. Because they can't move their king out of the way. They don't have any pawns to block, and they have to block with either their rook or their queen. So that is starting to look a lot better for us. We also start to get ideas of like if we could, teleport a knight over to here and their pawns weren't in the way. That's checkmate. So this starts to look very dangerous for our opponent. I like the idea of knight out to b4 a little bit. Or maybe knight to a5 sort of hits their bishop and forces it to move over here. I don't know if that does anything for us. Very interesting. We could do. Oh, I like knight to b4 and then knight to d5. So then if they take, we can take with our knight, and then we're hitting their dark squared bishop again. Yeah, let's do that. And if they want to push a3, that sort of plays into our plans. Here we go, and we can sort of free up our position a little bit. Okay, they push. We could move forward with our plan here. Here's a slightly different plan, but it hits their dark squared bishop. Yeah, that looks pretty good to me. Well, I guess, hold on. We go out here, they push. We take, they can take our light squared bishop with check. We take with our king, and then they maybe have ideas of like queen out, checking, and then taking our knight back. I think we can still go for it then, because then we have bishop to g5, pinning their queen to their king. All right. All right. If they want to take, we can take back. Oops. And we still maintain our plan. Because too, this is forcing. So if we do get to take their dark squared bishop, then we hit their queen. Okay, so they move their dark squared bishop out of the way. Probably a good move from our opponent. That does permit us this check, taking their pawn, and I think forcing them to block with either their rook or their queen. I guess they could push this pawn, but we can take that because that square is guarded by our knight as well. So let's deal with this pawn. If they push, I think we take with our bishop so we can get a nice bishop trade in. That's very forcing. And then we hit their queen. Okay, so they're able to get their knight out of the way. That's nice. Let's see. You get a rook out onto the open C file, X-raying their king. We don't quite have knight takes check because their bishop guards that square. Ooh, here's an idea. So rook out to C8, pinning the C2 pawn to their king, and then we can take on D3, hitting their queen, This square is guarded by our knight, so that looks really good. And I think we're firmly out of the woods with any ideas of sort of this pawn advance on our king side. As we saw earlier, this push to f4 doesn't do anything, so I think we can play rook to c8. Looks really good. And then we have this lovely pawn take, or bishop takes on d3. They get their knight out, potentially hitting our dark squared bishop. So I think, yeah, we play this first to force them to move their queen. Honestly, we could come in with like knight takes after that. It looks really good. Looking pretty bad for our opponent here. Looking really bad for our opponent. We'll need to play thoughtfully and carefully, but I like what we have going on here. They move their queen out of the way, adding an attacker to our dark squared bishop, which looks pretty good. If we played our knight out here, knight takes on a2, bishop takes on a2, and then we have rook takes on c2 check. Their king needs to move out of the way, and then we have rook takes on d2 check. Anything else they can do here? We take here, and they just move their king out of the way. I guess we have bishop takes check. It starts to look nasty. We also have bishop takes on d2 check, but I think that does a little bit less for us and opens up this g file a little bit for our opponent to attack, which I certainly do not want with this idea coming up. So let's play this with check. They take. We are able to take here. Yep. They need to move out of the way. We take here with check, and then we win their queen. And if they move out of the way, okay, so they move there. Let's pick up their queen. Somewhat mitigating the potency of this attack. And then, yeah, our opponent resigns. We have a firm lead. Great. Let's take a quick look at the review. I think if the games go as quickly as that, I will certainly have time for 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 games today. So it's a nice quick game. We get the hillbilly attack. Nothing too scary there. Bishop out to f5. Probably a little bit better than getting our knight out, but I really like blocking this check preemptively. I just think that check comes with a lot of nasty ideas. I don't want that. So we back up. Nothing too crazy. Our opponent castles queenside, which I think is a strong idea. I think typically if you do opposite side castling, and we're pretty clearly set up for opposite side castling here, pushing your pawns on the opposite side that you've castled is like the attack plan. You just want to push all your pawns as quickly as possible. And with that combination of like these pawn pushes harass our light squared bishop, I think that gets you in a good spot. The engine doesn't seem to like it, but I think that's a strong idea. The engine likes knight to d4 a little bit better here, hitting their queen and their light squared bishop. And if maybe we just pick up their light squared bishop there. Yeah, it doesn't seem too threatening where it is right now, but that does provoke a weakness on their the side where they've castled. Okay. For d4 is best. I'm glad I identified that to sort of scare off their knight. Yeah, and then we start our very strong attack. How wonderful is this? Yeah, and we get some really strong attacks right out of the gate. So we take this pawn that's pinned. I mean, and it all starts to go downhill very quickly for our opponent here. Geez, queen takes bishop is best here just because they are getting ready to lose their queen. Oh, I guess bishop takes was a little bit stronger here. And they're about to lose, just a ton of material. Oh, we just have mate and 6 with bishop takes. That's crazy. So we had mate and 7 here. I didn't spot it that far out. That's fine. But I do want to see check, take, check, 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 check. Oh my god. So it's like a mating net. And then our queen sort of drives in that stake. Ooh, that's cool. That's a neat idea. I'm not surprised I didn't see that. But we did have strong attacking ideas. And then I think probably this is the right idea here. Rook down. King takes. Queen over to c8. They need to put something in the way. Queen takes. They need to put something else in the way. Queen takes. Taking advantage of the fact that this knight is pinned to their king. Super strong idea. Okay, so we missed a couple of those. Missed mate in 3, but still picking up a queen, I think, is a devastating blow to our opponent. It's sort of a situation where everything wins. Yeah, this is great for us. Probably coming up from our opponent is like I don't know, like rook takes, we fork their pieces. Yeah, it's just looking nasty. We don't need to spend too much time on this. This is obviously just very, very gross for our opponent. So, yeah, I think we'll call this a win, and I'll get to record another game pretty quickly here. All right, have a good one, y'all.